In 1987, every person named Thomas Mitchell in the United States received an identical letter. Only they could see it. And the government has been trying to erase the proof ever since. This is the story of what happened when thousands of people shared the same name and the same impossible secret. It started in small towns across America. A postal worker in Nebraska noticed something strange. Dozens of identical envelopes, all addressed to Thomas Mitchell, all arriving on the same Tuesday morning. But when she tried to log them into the system, the computer rejected them. Every single one. The serial numbers didn't exist. The stamps weren't real. Yet, they were there in her hands. By Wednesday, it happened everywhere. Thomas Mitchell's from coast to coast, a librarian in Massachusetts, a mechanic in Texas, a teacher in California, all received the same mysterious letter. And every single one of them reported the exact same thing. The letter contained their personal memories. Moments they'd never told anyone. Private thoughts. Confessions. Things no one else could possibly know. More terrifying, each letter was addressed from the future. Dated 2019. Signed with their own signatures. Within 48 hours, the government knew. The FBI began making calls. Quietly. Systematically. They weren't arresting anyone. They were collecting. Every Thomas Mitchell who admitted receiving the letter was visited. They were shown documents. Official paperwork with their names redacted, completely blacked out with marker. Pages and pages of government records where they had been erased from existence. The agents told them the same thing. The letters were a test. A project called nomenclature. They explained that in certain cases, when too many citizens shared identical names, it created a vulnerability in the fabric of national security. A blind spot in the system. And apparently someone, or something, was exploiting that vulnerability to send messages across time. What the government needed to know was simple. Had the future already happened? Could they still change it? Thomas Mitchell in Ohio refused to comply. He went public. He held a press conference with the letter in his hands. Within minutes, the transmission cut out. Not the broadcast, the letter itself. Witnesses said they could see it in his hands one moment. Then, it simply wasn't there anymore. Not dropped. Not stolen. Just gone. And Thomas Mitchell's face began to blur in every photograph taken that day. Every single one. Professional cameras. Phone cameras. Security footage. All corrupted. The government's response was surgical. News reports were retracted. The incident was buried. But Thomas Mitchell in Ohio had made copies. He'd shown it to 43 people before the deletion began. All 43 of those people reported the same phenomenon. They could still remember seeing it, but they couldn't describe it. The memory was corrupted, like a file damaged beyond repair. The strangest part? There were 847 Thomas Mitchells in America at that time. Over the next 5 years, 731 of them changed their names. Legally, officially, they wanted to disappear from the system. They wanted to sever whatever connection the future had made to them. The remaining 116 were never heard from again. In 1994, a retired postal inspector released a single document. It showed a memo dated from the week of the letters. It said only this: Project Nomenclature successful. Subjects received messages from temporal source. Redaction protocols initiated. Identity erasure ongoing. Do not pursue further contact. The document was signed by 3 people. Their names were completely redacted. To this day, if you search government databases for Thomas Mitchell from 1987, you find nothing. No records. No social security numbers. No addresses. It's as if those people never existed. But their families know. The people who knew them know. And somewhere out there are copies of those letters. Real physical copies. hidden away by families who've been waiting 40 years for someone to understand what the government has been hiding. The question isn't who sent the letters from the future. The question is, why did the government decide that certain people needed to be erased from existence? And what did those letters say that made them worth removing an entire group of people from history? In 1987, Dr. Michael Hendricks walked into the Pentagon with 20 years of employment behind him. He never walked out the same person. And the government made sure nobody would ever know why. Dr. Hendricks was a senior physicist, working in a classified division focused on experimental weapons development. By all accounts, he was trusted, decorated, loyal. But in March of that year, something changed. His colleagues noticed he stopped attending meetings. His security clearance was mysteriously downgraded overnight. When asked what happened, nobody had answers, or rather, nobody was allowed to give them. Then came the strangest part. Every record of his work from 1986 to 1987 vanished. Project files, research papers, even his own employment records from that entire year simply ceased to exist in the official Pentagon database. It was as if 12 months of his life had been surgically removed from history. Years later, Hendricks' daughter found a hidden journal in her father's desk after his death in 2003. The entries were cryptic, written in a kind of code, but one passage stood out. They showed us what we weren't supposed to see. Now they're showing us how to forget it. What did Hendricks witness? Declassified documents suggest the Pentagon was conducting experiments with something they called temporal displacement, technology that operated on principles physics still can't explain. According to a leaked memo from 1988, 17 scientists were involved in the initial trials. 14 of them experienced what officials termed cognitive discontinuity, essentially, missing time they couldn't account for. Hendricks lived another 16 years with fragments of memories that didn't match his official timeline. He kept journals. He sought psychiatric help. He tried to tell reporters what happened, but every journalist who interviewed him suddenly lost interest or experienced technical difficulties with their recordings. In 1998, a former Pentagon administrator named Robert Chen went public with what he claimed to know. He said the experiments involved trying to create windows into alternate timelines to observe moments that had already passed. The project was shut down after what Chen called a catastrophic cascade event. 3 test subjects died under mysterious circumstances. The remaining 14 were given the choice: permanent institutional care or a pill that would suppress their memories of the incident. Hendricks chose the pill. But the human brain isn't designed to have memories simply erased. They fracture. They leak. They return in fragments and nightmares. His daughter's journal entries show a man slowly being consumed by recollections he couldn't quite grasp. Images of rooms that shouldn't exist, machines humming with impossible frequencies, and the faces of his colleagues as they disappeared one by one into something he had no words to describe. The Pentagon never acknowledged the program. Robert Chen died in a car accident in 2004, the same year after Hendricks passed away. His files were sealed. His testimony, archived and classified. But the most disturbing part, in 2019, a digital archive error briefly exposed classified Pentagon documents online. Among them was a project continuation note, dated 2012. The program wasn't shut down. It was relocated. And it was still running. Dr. Michael Hendricks spent the last years of his life writing warning after warning about what the government was developing. None of those letters ever reached the public. His daughter found them hidden throughout his house after he died, addressed to journalists, senators, and the president himself. Every single envelope was still sealed, because somewhere in the depths of the Pentagon they're still experimenting, still trying to see what lies beyond the boundaries of time itself. and every person who gets close to understanding what they're doing simply vanishes from the timeline. Or worse, they stay, but forget they were ever there at all.
Unexplained cluster migraines and psychiatric hospitalizations across specific geographic regions. Marcus compiled everything into a 300-page paper with full citations, methodology, and peer-reviewed data. He submitted it to 3 major scientific journals simultaneously in March 1987. Within 48 hours, all 3 rejected it. Not for scientific reasons, they simply refused to engage with the content. One editor's rejection letter was a single sentence: "This research cannot be published." Confused, Marcus tried to contact the journal editors directly. He never reached a single one. But his phone started ringing with calls from people claiming to represent various government agencies. They were never hostile. They were worse. They were helpful. They offered him grants, promotions, better positions at more prestigious institutions. All he had to do was stop talking about his research. Marcus refused. He decided to hand-deliver copies of his paper to journalists, academics, and congressional representatives. He printed 200 copies at a local print shop on a Tuesday morning. On Wednesday, every single copy vanished. The print shop owner claimed they'd never existed. The receipt was gone from their system. When Marcus checked his home office, his backup copies were missing too. His computer had been wiped, not deleted, completely wiped, as if he'd never owned it. His handwritten notes were gone. Even his old university transcripts had been quietly archived beyond access. But here's where it gets worse. By Friday, Marcus had been fired from his position. The reason given was irreconcilable differences, though he'd received glowing performance reviews just weeks prior. When he applied to other research facilities, he was quietly rejected by every single one. Industry-wide blacklist, though nobody would say the words. His wife left him that same month. She claimed it was for unrelated reasons, but she left with almost everything and moved across the country without forwarding address. His brother stopped taking his calls. His closest colleague at work denied knowing him. By June 1987, Marcus Webb had become a ghost. He spent the next decade working odd jobs: construction, retail, anything that didn't require background checks or references. He lived in different cities, changed his name twice, and never spoke about his research to anyone. In 1998, an independent journalist named Sarah Chen found him living in Portland, Oregon, working as a night security guard. She obtained redacted government documents that referenced atmospheric manipulation study group and a notation: Webb threat level, critical, containment achieved. When Sarah tried to interview Marcus, he was terrified. He confirmed that everything in his research was true, but he refused to go on record. He was afraid, not of prison, not of legal action, but of disappearing. And he understood something Sarah didn't yet. The government hadn't censored him to protect a secret. They'd censored him because his data proved they were conducting experiments on the American population without consent. Sarah published her findings in an obscure online journal in 1999. 3 weeks later, her apartment caught fire under suspicious circumstances. She survived but lost everything. All her notes, all her sources, everything. She never published again. Marcus Webb died in 2003. The death certificate says natural causes, heart attack. He was only 58. No autopsy was ever performed, despite his sister's requests. Today, his research exists only in fragmentary form. A few citations in suppressed academic papers, references in declassified documents with most pages redacted, and countless accounts from people who claim to have seen his original data before it disappeared. The electromagnetic experiments he documented. They continued. Documented cases of cluster health issues in specific geographic zones persist to this day, often explained away as coincidence or environmental factors. But if you look at the patterns, if you really look, you can still see them. The same frequencies, the same regions, the same outcomes. And somewhere in a government archive, Dr. Marcus Webb's complete research exists in its original form. But you'll never see it, because some truths are too dangerous to survive. 1989, a CDC whistleblower tried to expose what happened inside a locked research facility in rural Pennsylvania, and nearly all evidence of her investigation disappeared. Her name was Dr. Margaret Chen, and she made one critical mistake: she kept copies. Margaret worked as an epidemiologist for the CDC's Special Pathogens Division. In early 1989, she was assigned to investigate a mysterious outbreak in a small farming community called Millbrook, population 847. The symptoms were unlike anything in the medical literature. Victims experienced rapid neurological deterioration, unexplained pigmentation changes, and complete memory loss within 72 hours. What disturbed Margaret most wasn't the disease itself, it was the government's response. A containment zone was established around Millbrook, not to protect the public, but to contain something else. Margaret documented that military personnel, not health officials, controlled access to the quarantine area. She watched as infected patients were transferred to an unmarked facility 12 miles outside town under armed guard. The official records stated that 17 people contracted the illness. Margaret's personal notes indicated there were 43. She began photographing documents, internal memos discussing population management strategies, lab reports showing the pathogen's apparent man-made markers, genetic sequences that shouldn't occur naturally, autopsy photographs that were never filed in any official database. Then her supervisor called her into his office. He knew about the copies. He didn't threaten her directly. He simply explained that the national security implications made her findings classified retroactively. Her notes, her photographs, her research, all of it legally belonged to the government now. Discussing them would constitute espionage. Margaret complied. She had a family. She wanted to keep her clearance. But she didn't destroy those copies. In 1993, 4 years later, Margaret mailed everything to a journalist in Washington, D.C. She included a letter explaining that Millbrook had been deliberately infected with a pathogen as part of a biological containment protocol experiment. The government needed to understand how quickly a disease could spread through a population, and how effectively they could suppress it. The residents of Millbrook weren't told they were test subjects. The journalist's office received the package on a Thursday. By Monday, the FBI had seized all materials. The journalist was visited by federal agents who made it clear that publishing anything would result in charges under the Espionage Act. He never wrote the story. Margaret Chen died in 1998. Official cause: heart attack at age 51. She had no history of cardiac problems. What makes this credible is what happened afterward. In 2001, during a routine government file transfer, a researcher in Virginia stumbled upon a heavily redacted memo referencing the Millbrook incident and Chen compliance protocol. The researcher made the mistake of asking questions. He was transferred to a desk job in Alaska within weeks. Millbrook itself no longer appears on most maps. The town was officially consolidated with neighboring townships in 1992. Satellite imagery from 1990 shows the community. Imagery from 1994 shows empty roads and boarded structures. The few remaining residents signed non-disclosure agreements in exchange for relocation assistance. In 2019, a Freedom of Information Act request for CDC records from 1989 returned a single page, completely redacted except for the date and a case file number that doesn't correspond to any existing database. We'll never know what was truly released in Millbrook. We'll never know how many people died. We'll never know if it was an accident or intentional. All we have is the fact that a woman tried to expose the truth, and the truth was erased along with her.
In 2019, a NASA satellite technician named Marcus Chen received an email from an address that didn't exist. What he found inside would cost him everything. Marcus worked in the orbital debris tracking division for 15 years. His job was simple: monitor dead satellites, space junk, and defunct equipment orbiting Earth. He knew the inventory by heart. Every object, cataloged. Every trajectory map. Then came the anomaly. On March 14th, his monitoring system flagged something impossible. A satellite. No designation. No launch date. No country of origin. It was in perfect geosynchronous orbit above the American Midwest, and according to every database on Earth, it shouldn't exist. When Marcus reported it up the chain, the response was immediate and strange. His supervisor told him to delete the detection. Just erase it. No investigation, no inquiry to other agencies, nothing. When Marcus refused, he was pulled into a closed conference room with 3 people in dark suits who never introduced themselves. They showed him classified photographs, satellite imagery that revealed something horrifying. The unknown satellite wasn't alone. There were 17 of them, all positioned over major US cities, all unregistered, all watching. The suits explained that these satellites weren't government property. They were older, much older, some dating back to the 1960s. They weren't launched by NASA or the DoD. They predated the space race's public timeline by nearly a decade. Marcus was told these satellites had been built by a shadow aerospace program, funded through black budgets, designed for surveillance purposes that went beyond anything publicly acknowledged. The equipment was so advanced that even contemporary systems couldn't detect their transmissions. They were essentially invisible, ghosts in orbit. When Marcus asked who built them, the answer froze his blood. "We don't know anymore," one agent said. "That's the problem." The program was supposedly shut down in 1974, but the satellites remained. They were still operational, still watching, still transmitting data to receiving stations that officially didn't exist. Maintenance commands were still being issued from somewhere. Someone was still maintaining them. Someone was still using them. Marcus was offered a choice: take a pension, leave the agency quietly, and never speak about what he'd seen, or disappear into the system. He took the pension. For 3 years, he stayed silent. Then the emails started arriving from an address, govarchive@protonmail.com, containing fragments of declassified documents he'd never seen before. Blueprints, launch schedules, names of contractors, references to Project Zenith, and something called the Watchers. The final email contained a single photograph. It was satellite imagery showing the Earth from space. But what made Marcus's hands shake was simple. He could see 17 points of light in perfect formation above the continental United States. They were still there, still watching. That photograph was timestamped 3 days ago. Marcus never responded to the emails. He moved twice, changed his phone number, and sold his house. But sometimes, on clear nights, he goes outside and stares at the sky. He tries to locate them, those invisible eyes in the darkness. He knows they're there, watching, waiting, wondering how long it will take before someone else notices them too.
And then it ended. Black screen. Back to normal programming. Within hours, the government launched what would be called Operation Scrubbed Eye. Every recording was seized. News stations were raided. The FCC claimed a systems malfunction. They said nothing was broadcast. They said no message was sent. They told the American public they had imagined it. But Robert Hayes had recorded it. He hid 3 VHS tapes in his mother's attic in North Carolina. He never told anyone where. He tried to contact journalists, but his phone lines were being monitored. His apartment was broken into. Nothing was stolen, just searched. 2 weeks after the broadcast, Hayes died in a car accident. Single vehicle. No witnesses. The tapes were discovered in 2003 by his nephew, who uploaded a 40-second clip to an early internet forum before it was immediately removed. In that clip, you could see those flickering documents. You could hear fragments of that woman's voice reading names and coordinates. The government's response was swift. They denied everything. They claimed the footage was fabricated, a hoax. They threatened legal action against anyone who distributed it. The clip vanished from the internet within days, but not before thousands of people had seen it. Today, no full recording of that broadcast exists in any public archive. The FCC has no record of any malfunction. The government has never acknowledged the incident happened at all. Robert Hayes' death certificate is still classified. His accident report was sealed. But people remember. People who were children in front of their televisions that night remember what they saw. And they've spent the last 36 years wondering, what was being hidden? Who were those people being relocated? And why did the government move heaven and earth to make sure we all forgot? Some secrets, it seems, are worth killing for.